Hello, hello. This is Christina Barr. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello, hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr. I hope you guys had a fantastic weekend. Today, we will be talking about a poll that is freaking Democrats out. That like ABC put out, and they say it's an outlier. I think it's totally wrong, and I think a lot of the polls that I've been seeing have been really bad. And I think there's two reasons that we will go through today, and I think this one really highlights all that. Also, we will be talking about Pearly Things and she's been going at it with the Daily Wire people about marriage like all weekend, and other people as well, because she's part of like this red pill movement. That's, she says a lot of things that I don't know, some young men like to hear. And she's talking about how terrible marriage is for men and how there's no merit in it for them, I suppose, because it's so likely to fail. And she's saying 75% chance of failure and all this crazy kind of stuff. I did watch Matt's show today, and he did talk about it, and he had a really good monologue. So I recommend you check that out. So I'm going to try not to repeat too much stuff that he's saying. But people have said in the past when I've talked about Pearl, like, you guys are on the same side. You don't attack someone on the same side. I don't believe we're on the same side, because there might be some things that we can agree on surface level, but she's circling back to a point of like the same conclusions that a lot of the like the feminist movement has pushed for and basically created. Because she's not rooted in the same things that I am. So I got to go through some of these tweets that she's had and said over the weekend that are just so bizarre, so bizarre. And also 60 Minutes did a report on some of the things that we're spending our money on in Ukraine. Very fascinating stuff. Not all just going to weapons, which I'm sure we're all aware of. But before we jump to everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, different articles, different videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. Cost to stream, cost to run my website, all that stuff. And also still need a new camera and all that stuff. So if you guys can support in that way, I very much do appreciate you. Thank you guys for watching live, and thank you to those of you who watch it back. Thank you to those in the chat. All that does really support and help out. So I appreciate you very much. Check out different merch that we have on the website. Like the I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For. There was a very funny video of Joe Biden mispronouncing LL Cool J. Some people are saying it was a racist because he called him boy. I don't know if I want to go that far, but it made me think of this shirt where it's denounce white supremacy, defeat Joe Biden, with a list of his racism on the back. But man, he called him like LLJ Cool J or something. I'm like, how do you mess that up, man? But it was funny. It was laugh out loud funny. I don't have the clip for you guys, but just put that in your mind and go look it up later when you're done. Because it was really funny. Also, check out my books. Of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. It's one of my 2 nonfiction books that I have out, and the rest are fiction books. So if you would like to check out some of the stuff that I have, you guys can find me on Amazon. Most of my books are available on KDP. So if you have that subscription, you guys can just read through it. But my 2 nonfiction books aren't on KDP though, so you have to either buy the Kindle or buy the paperback. And if you like it, go ahead and leave a review. So anyway, I do have I suppose a meme to start you guys off. This is from Mostly Peaceful Memes. So Canada did an interesting thing. Um, So let me show you the meme first, and then we will explain. um, so we got the scene from Star Wars. This is a very popular meme now, and it's like let me expand that a little bit so you guys can know. We're honoring a Ukrainian World War II veteran who fought the Russians. What country did he fight for? Smile there, like what country did he fight for? So there's a question. Someone had a little meme under there, a gif that's like, "Are we the baddies?" So let's play a little video of when Zelensky came and they all gave a standing ovation and they for Zelensky, and they gave it for someone else as well.
Zelensky's speech received at least a dozen standing ovations. There was also one for this man, a 98-year-old Ukrainian Canadian who fought for Ukrainian independence against the Russians during the Second World War.
He fought for a division, the 14th division of the Waffen SS. I don't know if that's how you say it right, against the Russians in Ukraine in World War II. Who were the Russians fighting in World War II, guys? That man was a Nazi. Oh my gosh. So the media is kind of reporting it like links to Nazis. It's funny that, like, if this was, something that was associated with right people on the right, they just would say Nazis, and now it's like linked to Nazis. It's like, no, it's a little stronger than the link, guys. How very, very interesting, very, very interesting indeed, my Canadian viewers and people out there in the world. Gosh, what a time to be alive. um anyway, speaking of Ukraine, 60 Minutes ran a report on some of the things that we're spending money on in Ukraine, and it's not just weapons, and we're funding grains, and we're funding first responders and some of that stuff. I guess it makes sense, but it's also like small businesses as well. So it's very interesting.
American taxpayers are financing more than just weapons. We discovered the US government's buying seeds and fertilizer for Ukrainian farmers and covering the salaries of Ukraine's first responders, all 57,000 of them. That includes the team that trains this rescue dog, named Joy, to comb through the wreckage of Russian strikes looking for survivors. And the US also funds the divers, who we saw clearing unexploded ammunition from the country's rivers to make them safe again for swimming and fishing. Russia's invasion shrank Ukraine's economy by about a third. We were surprised to find that to keep it afloat, the US government is subsidizing small businesses.
Yeah, subsidizing small businesses. So, war obviously touches more than just what happens on the battlefield and people losing their lives. This war has impacted our finances and our, gas and our businesses, because you got to get to work, you got to drive product here and there, and it's been very tough for so many people, and it's been check after check after check after check. So after this report, and I guess prior to that, you have people saying like, no more money, not another dime, not another cent, and I want to know all where it's going. I saw a guy, Benson, who is I don't think he said any like negative about supporting Ukraine, but he's just like, if this is what's going on and where the money's going, just be transparent and make a case for why they need to do it. but I don't know how many Americans are thinking like, oh yeah, I'm going to pay this money that we're sending over, that's out of our military budget, is going to go pay for small business and subsidizing them. I don't think that Americans just kind of have that in mind. And again, if they think that's important, they can make that case. But I just don't think a lot of people are aware of that. Um, Someone had told me that their job was thinking about trying to outsource and like over here outsource their jobs to like overseas to Ukraine. And which is interesting because a lot of people, I guess they think about call centers being in places like India and other places like that, but actually Ukraine is high on the list for like call centers and stuff. I'm like, that's very interesting since there's like a whole war going on. Yeah, that you would consider taking away American jobs and putting them over there, while again, while they have a war with Russia going on. It would seem like, I don't know, job security is kind of sketchy at that point. So um I don't talk a lot about Ukraine because I don't know what all the I'm not a foreign policy expert, and I don't know what all is the right decision to be made and the choices with all this. But I would assume that a lot of our money is not being allocated properly at the very least. And it's Nikki Haley broke it down that it's a small percentage of our already allocated military budget, on the debate stage when she defended it, which I guess that was a competent sort of argument for it. But I also know that there's a lot of things going on as far as our military readiness and some of the things that we need upgraded and replaced, like different planes and stuff. We're behind the ball on a lot of things. So it just makes me feel uneasy. I guess another thing though, when all this kind of really first started, and they're like, this is the most important thing, the most important thing. And they're like, but we're definitely not going to send any troops. And I didn't want them to send any troops or anything like that. But I'm just like, if this is the most important thing, um and you're announcing like right off the bat how far we're not willing to go, like where the line is, then I don't know, that makes me question things because you can't pitch it like it's the most important thing. So I don't know, I think there's a lot of bottom lines that people aren't being honest about. But and I would assume a lot of people share similar feelings, but I'm not an expert on it, so I don't talk a lot about it. But just wanted to make you guys aware of what's going on in our world as far as our money, especially as I'm sure people are genuinely feeling the lack of funds here in their own life and for their businesses and communities, etc. Anyway, moving on. Before I get to the pearly things, I want to talk about this poll that has been flipping out Democrats all weekend. And it's an outlier poll, but it has Trump at 52% and like Biden at like 42%. And that's a crazy number. That's a crazy number. And other polls like 538 averages has Biden at leading by maybe around 5ish or closer or what. I've seen polls with them like a point between each other, etc. In the general, I think these polls aren't accurate. And Kellyanne Polls, who was Trump's, campaign manager and worked within the administration, she said something about polls that was very interesting some time ago. Let me pull it up and play it for you guys. But she once said that she doesn't trust polls at all. At least not general polls really early out. I think during like primary time. So Let me play that for you guys because I think this still applies for all you who are using these kind of polls as gospel.
We never did a single national poll when I was campaign manager. I looked at it as a colossal waste of money for the reasons we're talking about. We never did a single national poll when I was campaign manager. I looked at it as a colossal waste of money for the reasons we're talking about. It gives outsized importance to the more populous states, and it gives far less importance to the less populous states. And it doesn't have a large enough sample size in those 10, 11, 12 swing states that I think you'll all be looking at and traveling to with a clip. You remember Iowa polling in the primaries last time? They were a disaster. And I'm sorry to tell you, but it was a Bloomberg poll. You guys had hired a quote prominent pollster there, and the poll was way wrong about the caucus results. So here's what I think about polls generally. I think and I've said this for years because I was a pollster. I don't know a billion things about a billion things, but I know polling. And I think we should always look to see who's being polled. So it's not about that poll. If it's adults, even if it's registered voters, likely voters, I always said for decades as a pollster, Zeke, you're really going to want this one, is that the worst way to find out if somebody's a likely voter is to ask them, are you likely to vote? We never did a single national.
So I think that's important to note, and to not take all this as gospel, but there's some wild things to consider. Like if you look in the actual like who did the poll, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense how it breaks down. It doesn't. So here's a comparison. So the non-white Biden has plus 10. Before it was like plus 45. The exit polls from 2020. So it's comparing the poll that just came out that people are flipping out about. Like people on the right who are very pro-Trump are very excited about the poll, and people who are Democrats are flipping out. Trump is plus 16 and 18 to 39. But Biden had plus 15 in the exit polls in 2020. Independents, Trump plus 13, and it was flipped at the actual exit polls in 2020. At rural, Trump plus 41. Trump in reality had plus 15. Moderate, this poll only had Biden plus 8. In reality, in 2020, it was plus 30. White Catholic, Trump had plus 36. Trump really had it by plus 12 before. Remember, Joe Biden is Catholic, though he's a terrible Catholic, but and supports some really anti-Catholic things. But Trump had men by plus 30 in this poll. In reality, it was plus 8. Urban, Biden plus 8, and in reality, in the election, it was plus 22. Suburban, Trump plus 8, and in reality, it was Biden plus 2. So, my opinion, my very strong opinion about these polls, such polls, particularly like this, is that it serves a purpose as far as getting Trump through the primary. And you can love him all you want. The Democrats also love him for other reasons, though they hate his guts, but they also love him for other reasons. They do think that he's going to lose. They think he cannot win a general. And it's the same thing that they thought in 2016. And they happen to be wrong. But things haven't changed. And they believe he won't win 2024. They and you can be like, oh well, those people are dumb. In 2022, in the midterms, there were Trump candidates that Democrats actually paid to advance them in the primaries, because they, like in Michigan, Trump had a guy, John Gibbs, who he endorsed, which John Gibbs, his credentials looked kind of nice, pretty impressive and stuff. But he didn't have the ID and other kind of stuff, and wasn't spending money or had money like Peter Meyer. Peter Meyer was already, in the House, and he already has he owns Myers. Are there Myers all around the country? It's a big chain and stuff, at least in Michigan. It's a grocery store. So people definitely know who Peter Meyer is. So there's that name ID for his side, and of course he has money. But people dislike Peter Meyer because he was one of the Republicans who voted to impeach Trump. So people were looking to get rid of him, and Democrats, they invested money in the primary and they ran these commercials and they'd be like, John Gibbs wants your kids to be educated and cares about parental rights. And anybody watching a commercial like that who is a Republican, but I think has a lot of sense, would go, oh, that sounds really nice. Let me support John Gibbs. Like, these sound like nice things. But so the Democrats would say these attacks that were really nice things, so people will go out and support John Gibbs. And so he won over Peter Meyer, but they wanted a MAGA person to win because they thought it'd be easier to defeat. So this is a tactic that they did a couple different places, and they were successful in every circumstance. And which really bums me out, but it is what it is. And some Trump candidates did not have a successful run in 2022. And even in 2020, there were some I guess in 2022 there were some MAGA people who dragged a bit. JD Vance won, but he didn't win as much as he could, as maybe some other person could have won. So they have reasons to believe that Trump will not have a successful 2024. The major risk, though, is Joe Biden, because Bidenomics isn't working, or maybe it is working. Maybe it's all going according to plan. But people still feel it in their pockets. They don't feel a good economy at all, no matter how many times Biden and Buttigieg and Kamala Harris go around saying, oh, like, it just, people are doing so great. Oh, but they just need some time to realize it. No, people understand how bad things are, and they've been struggling. And the border is becoming more frustrating for people, especially as people are being bused to areas where a lot of, blue voters are. That doesn't mean that they're going to, get the revelation and just vote differently, but they're frustrated. A lot of people are frustrated about the border. A lot of people are frustrated about education, their kids being behind and other stuff. And I think there's plenty of people who'd be ready to go for round 2 for pandemic, lockdown, all that kind of masking and stuff. But I think there's still a lot of people who are very frustrated about how everything went down as well. So people aren't happy with Biden. And then there's all this corruption with his son, right? With not just his son, but obviously with Joe. But they'll try to spin it like, oh, Joe Biden, his only crime is loving Hunter too much. That's his only crime. And I doubt that's true. I doubt that's true. And there's some evidence of them, colluding together in some kind of, there's evidence of Hunter implicating his father, and there being some benefits. So they're going through the impeachment inquiry, and I don't know if they will go through impeachment. If they do, unless Democrats get on board and impeach Joe, he's still gonna remain the president until like the end of the term. But they know that he's a drag. Now, in 2016, the plan was for Trump to be the nominee. That was the plan. If you read like the Podesta emails and stuff, literally the plan. And Hillary didn't have much of another one. She didn't go to Wisconsin and other places as much as she should have. Their people were so arrogant and lazy, I guess, and maybe stupid too. They'd have people, like, if you've ever done campaign stuff and you've like walked and knocked on doors and collected data and stuff. My sister was friends with somebody who was on the Hillary campaign and stuff, and they were telling her all kinds of crazy stuff. There are people who weren't even like entering data into books and stuff. So you need that information for like election day, so who's going out to vote and who's likely to vote, and if they turn in their stuff. There's like, it's very important for data for operations and stuff. So they probably had no idea how behind they really were, obviously. And people just kind of underestimated how much people hated her. So a lot of people talk about Trump as if he's some kind of historical outlier for how popular he was, when the truth is that Hillary Clinton was just like historically unpopular herself. So one, a lot of people hated her, but two, they didn't realize that they were losing. And I don't know if they could have fixed the fact that she was losing because so many people hated her, but they certainly didn't feel the urgency to fix it because they thought the fix was already in. And so, of course, Trump won. So it's kind of a similar gamble, I guess, in a way. But incumbents usually have an easier time. So there's that. Hillary wasn't an incumbent, but at the same time, people know what it's like to live in the awful Biden life. So you might want something different. So it's a risk. It's a risk, and I think Democrats realize that. But he's still their guy. He's still their president. They can't just all throw him under the bus. Now, there's been a couple of think pieces, different op-eds that have come out where people have said stuff like he's too old or we need to ditch him, other stuff like that. But just some waves are saying that we should consider some other options, and some people have spoken out about it, been upset. They're not on one accord with this. Polls that have Trump up by 9 and 10 or whatever are, I think, not only designed to put Trump through the primary, because they're eliminating the perspective in the argument that Trump isn't electable, which is the strongest argument for not supporting Trump in the primary, is that he can't win a general. So he can win a general, and it's likely that he's going to win the general more than everybody else. Why wouldn't you support a candidate if they were more likely to win the general and they did a lot of stuff that you already like, right? So if Trump is going to be the person who's going to win, and Biden is going to be someone who's going to lose big against him, because of all the things that he's done that are unpopular, he's not doing a good job, the best thing they can do is replace Biden. So this poll also puts worry in the minds of Democrats and fire under their feet to say, we got to get rid of this guy. We got to get rid of this guy. So I think that's one of the reasons why this ABC Washington Post poll or whatever, they put that out there, because they want people to consider putting him aside. That's what I believe. That's what I believe. I think it makes sense. A lot of other people are pointing this out. Because it's a big gamble. Now, I think a lot of people feel like if Trump is going to be the nominee, it's fine having Biden because Trump will still lose. At the end of the day, people will come home and vote, and in whatever way, and there's not going to be millions of people who just admitted they were wrong and decide to vote for Biden over Trump. That's a risk. They may be right, but it's a risk. And I don't think a lot of people who really, really want to retain their power, who'd really like the chance of replacing Thomas and Alito, if they could do that in the court, who have so many different other things that they want to implement, and really change our country to a point beyond, I don't know, repair, or maybe repair, who knows. There's too much at stake to risk it on a man who's practically dust. So that's what I think the purpose of these polls are. I think they're not measuring the actual attitudes of people and likely outcomes. I think they're trying to manufacture feelings and manufacture certain resolves and make the case for other candidates. And I think it's obvious a lot of people don't like Kamala. I still think it kind of be crazy optically to push her aside. And Gavin Newsom said maybe about 2 weeks ago or so that Kamala Harris was the heir apparent, of course, to Joe Biden, like he wasn't going to run and sidestep or whatever. So that's what he claimed. And he's a liar. So, I thought it was interesting when he said that, because I'm like, okay, Mm. But he did something this past weekend that made me think that he really is running. So he vetoed a bill that was going around in California that was going to make it so that during custody disputes of like parents with kids with gender identity, that they would take into account affirmation, which they're already doing basically. But Gavin Newsom thought he vetoed it and said he like just wanted to caution the legislature. I guess he thought that was, too far with it, with their scope or whatever. And so he vetoed it. Now, I haven't seen an update on whether they're still going to push it through, because they do have like a veto proof like majority. There's so many Democrats, and but I thought it was interesting that he vetoed it, because obviously it's a very toxic and evil thing that they're pushing. And I was waiting to see what he was going to do, because I'm like, if he wants to run, if he signs this, he's basically like signing away his chances, signing away his future presidential prospects, because this is something that is like top tier evil. So he's vetoed it because he's not a moron, not because he's not evil. He has signed some other bills that have been really ethically, morally, just awful. So I think he's totally capable of signing this and agreeing with it, but he's, again, not a moron. And he wasn't about to sign his future away. Now, again, they could still push it through, and or push something like it through. And again, they're already pretty much doing it anyway. So who knows if they even needed the bill anyway. So him vetoing it, he probably feels like he's not losing anything anyway. But him saying, "Oh, I had to stand up to my party because this was too radical, and I want to protect the LGBT kids, but I want to still respect some parents, and there's some things we should get." Like he's trying to move to the middle on something. Now he's still very, very left, but he's trying to move a little bit to the middle, like a little bit, and he's trying to appeal as a not radical person to some moderates and centrist and independents or whatever. He's gone on Fox News quite a bit. He's doing a lot of interviews, and before all this, he would attack Ron DeSantis a lot for different stuff going on in Florida, the parental rights and education bills, and other stuff like that, like nonstop. And people are like, "Bro, like, what about the homeless in your streets putting heroin in their veins?" Like, like, you have so much to focus on in your own state, and you're like nonstop looking at Florida. And I believe that's because he saw that as that was probably going to be the matchup, California versus Florida. So I think there's a good chance Gavin Newsom is waiting in the wings to run for president. And I don't mean in 2028. I do not mean in 2028. Now, there's some people who are terrified of the idea that they will put Biden away and put in Michelle Obama. That is a terrifying prospect. But I don't know what will be in it for her. It kind of seems like that's just a mess of a thing to do. Like, unless you really, really kind of want that on your resume, which it's a heck of a thing to have on your resume. Don't get me wrong. But she's rich. She's, adored by a lot of people. They're getting that Netflix money, she's doing all this kind of creative work and is looking important in that kind of stuff to it's just obviously a different mindset you got to have to go into to be the president. So I Obama have the Obamas back in the White House and stuff. I don't is that something she'd really want? And I don't think that Obama would put up his wife unless they really thought it was a guarantee that she was going to win. And if they're pretty sure that Trump's going to be the nominee, that is Michelle versus Trump. That probably wouldn't go great for our side, to be honest. So I don't know about Michelle, but I know Newsom I'm not gonna put money on it or anything, but I think that was a big tell what just happened over the weekend. And I still think that Gretchen Whitmer is very interested in running. She After she was reelected, she claimed that she didn't want to go to DC. That's really silly because she was thinking about it obviously when Biden was looking for vice presidents. And I think that she would be a safer bet than Newsom to win. I was talking when I had AK on my show about 2 weeks ago. He said something about a Kamala and Whitmer ticket. That's a really scary thing to think about, though I do not think that Whitmer would appreciate being a second fiddle to Kamala. Um, but there's better options for the Democrats. Certainly, absolutely, certainly, there's better options for Democrats. Um, Not better like I think they'll run the nation well or anything like that. There's definitely some Democrats that I would feel better about winning than some of these other folks. I still wouldn't want them to win because they're still radicals and they're going to push Democrat um, radical stuff anyway. But um, there, don't count on Biden being the ticket in 2024. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't bet on it. So be careful about these polls, man, because they are trying to manufacture and manipulate people to a certain conclusion. Um, Next, I got to talk a bit about Pearl and Pearl Davis. Maybe you guys are aware of her. She has a very big following on Twitter, and I think she still has a TikTok and a YouTube. And she was a professional basketball player. Um, but she's known for talking about anti-feminist kind of stuff and always sticking up for men. And there's a saying, pick me, and I don't love the term, and people have said that about me, like, oh, you're just pick me, you want well, people have said it for anti-feminist kind of reasons. Like I did a video when the Black Widow movie came out. I did a video with the song Anything You Can Do, I Can Do Better. I can do anything better than you, and it showed Taskmaster, and then it showed the stunt double and was like, no, you can't. And because the Taskmaster in the film, the character is a man, and in the film it was a big reveal, oh, it's this woman. And the stunt double though was a guy. So it was a very short video. It was like 15 seconds long, and it did very well on TikTok. And people, there's some people mad that I spoiled the movie, but um it was out for a week or two. So sorry if I spoiled it for you, but a lot of people thought it was funny, but there's some people were mad at me and it's like, oh, you're just a pick me. You want these boys to pick you. I'm just like, they could have used a female stunt double. you know, they could have done that. But so I don't know the term. A lot of people say that too for like oh, you just want these white Republicans to like you, and that's why you're a conservative saying family values and don't kill babies. And I'm just like, have you ever just like considered that maybe I believe the things that I say? So I don't love the term pick me, but in Pearl's case, I think it's pretty accurate because she says some off the wall stuff, and she's always reaming on women and coddling a lot of men. And Ben Shapiro, I think it was Ben, who made a post regarding all this marriage talk and the back and forth, and said that victim mentality is bad, whether you're on the right or the left. And um she is pushing that a bit for the guys. and she pushed back on them, but essentially she's saying that marriage isn't good for men because she's saying like 75% end in divorce, or um and even if they're like, happy, they don't divorce, which she's like women initiate. If you're not, even if you don't divorce, there are men who are unhappy in their marriages because their wives are fat and other things like that. So that's how she's rating success. And it's just, she's complaining a lot about the system and the courts and how much money men can lose in divorce and other things, and you can want to fix that system, but Jordan Peterson was like, your solution shouldn't be to tear down marriage. And that's what it seems like it's kind of going, because I'm just like, well, what's the alternative for men to just go around, hooking up with women and never getting married, and the men will continue hooking up, and then you'll continue trashing the women for being sluts who sleep with the men who you encourage to never settle down and marry because there's too much at stake for them. And then what about the kid raising kids together as a man and a wife? And people are like, well, you don't have to be married to do that. Look, statistically, you start, not having a good environment for your kids. I'm not saying it's a death sentence or something for your kids if you're not married or you're a single mom or single dad or anything like that, but it's better outcomes for your family if you are living together. You're raising your kids, and there's some kind of expected permanency to your relationship. So I don't know what the alternative is. I guess the alternative might be that men should get vasectomies and sleep around. And but again, she hates these women who put out, or it seems like that, and she'll trash them. And if they turn their lives around and want to settle down, she'll talk about how the church promotes horror culture, because these girls who have been what's the term that she'll say, ran through, these women who've been ran through, then they give their life to Christ and they repent and they try to get back in order, whatever. And she's like, you guys are promoting these people who get to live all kind of way, and then you forgive them. I'm like, I'm sorry, you have a problem with religion and redemption and salvation and forgiveness and all that stuff. So one particular tweet that was concerning, I gotta show you guys, is, again, she talked about how all these dudes will get divorced, the likelihood of them getting divorced. Like, why would you enter into a contract that's likely to fail, and then your business partner takes you for everything that you have? And then she says, but even for the people who stay in their marriage, they likely don't have successful marriages. When people wanted to push back on her stats and stuff, she retweeted this tweet that someone had here, and you got Pierce Brosnan here with his wife, and this guy's like, stay single, live to hunt another day, because his wife plumped up a bit over the years. His wife who's had his kids and other kind of stuff like that. So her boobs like look outrageous though. So Pearl here says, does this count for men as a successful marriage? Would this be a W for men everywhere? Well, they're married for 20 plus years. So if you don't, what is she promoting here? Because Pearl will ream on women for initiating divorce. But Pearl also believes that getting fat is a good reason to divorce your partner. So it seems like this girl doesn't even understand marriage at all, or what the commitment to it should be, When people get up and they make their vows and they're like for richer, for poor, in sickness and in health and all this stuff. So if someone gains some weight, it's not like he's married to the whale or something like that. That's unsuccessful to her. Pearl, who is, I'm single and childless myself, but she's single and childless. She's single and childless. By the way, her ex, if you've ever looked at angry reactions, he has like 27 million followers on TikTok. He's just a black guy who'll like cross his eyes kind of and just be all like mean looking and reviewing stuff. And his name is Angry Reactions. So at least that's what people know him as. That's not his handle. I don't think it is. I don't know. But that's her ex. So if you have a minute, look up Angry Reactions. And he's a black guy who's kind of, thick himself, but that's her ex. And I said, no wonder why Angry Reactions is angry. Because this girl is crazy. And he also said, he wants people to stop like adding at him and wanting him to react to stuff, crazy stuff that his ex-girlfriend says, because he's like, that has nothing to do with me. He's like, y'all hurt my feelings talking about like, well, Pearl is talking about fat people, but she dated Angry React. So he's like, y'all hurt my feelings. So I don't know if she's had what her last relationship was or whatever, but what's the end goal of all this? What's the end goal of all this? Because I can tell you that my parents have a very successful marriage. They've been together for 42 years. I also don't know what her opinion is of like real success in a marriage. If you can be together for more than 2 decades and in their little fat. And by the way, Pierce isn't like as slim as he used to be back in his you know youth. So I don't get that. But if you put on a little bit, then your marriage is a failure. Doesn't matter how well you raised your kids, doesn't matter what you've been through thick and thin, doesn't matter your level of romance, doesn't matter your level of how much you love each other. It's We can look at these pictures side by side and say your marriage is not successful because you're a little thick. I To the people like, you guys are on the same side. No, we're not. For what reason? What is she advancing? What is she conserving? So someone retweeted her and was like, guys, even if you find a woman who loves you and sticks by you for 22 years and counting, she might gain weight. You'd be better off alone. Hashtag stay single like Pearl. And so her and Pearl's been going back and forth a bit. And Pearl was like, well, you didn't answer the question. The You don't have to answer the question. She posed it that way because it was such a ridiculous thing to write, to assume that the marriage is not successful because she got a little because she's thicker than she was 20 years ago. Or anyway, my parents have been married for 42 years. They plumped together. Okay. And my mom has she had 7 kids, all natural. And she used to blame us for her weight like all the time. But my mom's lost a lot of weight. And she just, she's a night owl. And she'll just march in place watching TV. She'll just march in place. And that's she doesn't eat a lot. Um, you know, but she'll just mostly march in place. And that's how she slimmed down. My dad is still big. He did lose a lot of weight when he went to the hospital for COVID, but gained it back. So he's still a big. And guess what? They still love each other and have a successful marriage. I don't know if Pearl would consider it a success to raise 7 kids. Nobody's ever been to jail. Nobody's had any children out of wedlock. Everybody's ministers. I don't know if Pearl would consider that a success because their parents aren't as small as they were when they got married. But you know, I'm gonna take it as a W. I'm gonna have to actually talk to my parents about this and see if what kind of commentary they'll have surrounding this. But this example with Pierce Brosnan is just wild. It's just bonkers. So we the issue about people not having successful marriages, I'm like, the answer, I was talking about this in church yesterday. I'm like, the answer is so obvious, at least to people, especially on the Daily Wire, because they're all religious, right? Um, your mindset going into the marriage is going to determine a lot of its outcome. Um, if you're if you have very little to no partners by the time you get married, you are likely to not have a divorce, and you are likely to have a better marriage. Maybe it's partly because your levels of commitment, your self control is different. Maybe it's you're not comparing the person you're with to all other kind of relationships and folks that you've been with. Um, your level of your attitude to not getting divorced and being willing to work out your issues because that that's not an exit plan that you ever hope to go to. I think people who have it in their minds like we're gonna pull the ripcord at one point in time if we reach this particular point, um, uh, they're gonna have some different outcomes. I'm not gonna say that that's a guaranteed they're gonna fail, but how you approach your marriage going into it, how you're prepping for it going into it, um, will vastly change your outcomes. My dad, he would watch people, even married people, um, have like terrible marriages. He'd see people who did get divorced, even people in ministry and stuff. He was terrified to get married, absolutely terrified to get married, and he was prepping himself as a young man to just live for God, to be like Apostle Paul, and just be like, it's gonna be me and you, Jesus, and I don't need anyone else. And it was, the Lord who impressed upon him, like, you're not happy, and I'm gonna make you happy. And ended up being led to my mom, and they make each other happy, and they have made each other happy. They I'm sure have disagreements sometimes, but we could count on one hand probably how many times they've really, or maybe we'll be generous and say two, you know how many disagreements they really have. But if they have one, they have them behind closed doors. um my dad asked my mom the other day, like, did she miss him when he's gone on trips, and she's just kind of like, he mom was very shy, and she didn't talk much, and I was just like, yeah, she does. I put her on blast. I'm like, yeah, she misses you, dad. He calls and she just like perks up, and oh my gosh, he calls her all the time, especially if she's gone with us or something. We went to Vegas for Katrina's in the chat. Her birthday, and my mom came with us, and he was like calling, you know. But they love each other. They're accustomed to each other. They enjoy each other's company. Um, so yeah, she misses him when he's gone, and vice versa. They still, they still hang out together, go out for breakfast, and not like super planned romantic stuff. Anniversary, they might go see, I don't know, an action film, horror movie. My mom's big into horror stuff. They have a lot of interests. And but people will marry people they don't share the same values and hope that it works out. People will marry people they don't have a lot of the same interests. People will marry each other, and their families will know it won't work out, and they won't listen to family, and they'll just be like, "Oh, I wonder why that happened." And it's, if you have family who knows you and you have family who loves you, you should listen to them. I'm not saying it's always going to be the gospel truth when you're listening to other people, because people can be wrong, even people that you love. But a lot of times you got to listen to the counsel of the people who know you and love you and want the best for you, because maybe they're seeing something in that person that you can't recognize because you have love goggles on. So you got to listen and respect the people around you, again, especially if they love you and they care about you and they want what's best for you. So but people like, I'm grown, I can do my own thing, and and if it doesn't work out, I'll just pull the ripcord. So my parents were virgins when they got married, and you can say, oh, how old fashioned, how quaint. People can choose to live to whatever standard they want to. You can say society is this way. It's you can't ask people to be whatever kind of way. You can ask. What people do is their choice. What people do is their choice. But just getting rid of marriage or encouraging men to not marry because women might initiate the divorce and take it for all it's worth, whatever. You can try to change the system, but as Matt said in his video today, his episode, whatever changes you make, like if you want to get rid of no fault divorce or restructure the court system for family court or whatever, and make it more fair to men and women or whatever, that'll take years. That's not something that's going to happen overnight. And telling men to just press pause on finding the love of their lives and building families is not a good thing. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing for them. It's not a good thing for society. And they're not just going to pause their sexual urges and other things like that. She's just going to encourage more debauchery. And you guys know that I'm very passionate about the issue of abortion. 86% of women who have abortions are unmarried. So she's just pushing something that isn't good for society. And marriage and starting families, children change you so dramatically, especially when they're yours. But I have such love in my life for my family, my siblings, my parents. But man, I love my nieces and my nephews so much, so much. And their mom, she loves her kids. Their dad, they love their kids. Kids will change you so dramatically, teach you so much about yourself. They'll civilize you in a way that I don't think other things in the world can. I have a friend, who she was living not a very good life after high school, and when she was pregnant with her son, she said that he literally saved her life. And the Jordan Peterson has talked in lectures, and I added this to my book. Of course, guys blatantly against abortion stuff. About responsibility and how much it can change you for the better when you voluntarily take on responsibility, particularly responsibility of family. So, she's not pushing good stuff, guys. She's not pushing good stuff. And again, you cannot ream on women for initiating divorce and support people getting divorced for the dumbest reasons, or say that marriage is a success or failure based on very superficial things. What about the bonds people build and the love that they build, and etc. And some people in the comments, because she retweeted like, do guys really like this or whatever? And there's some guys who are like, I like my women thick. Or like, and someone had quote tweeted her and was like, I don't have anything against athletic type of women, but I'm only getting thick girls. I only like thick girls. There's some guys like that. And there are health reasons to be like, no, people should be slimmer, etc. But people do have different aesthetics. They do. There was a guy I used to work with. He only liked that was at a time when I was losing like a lot of weight, and so he never said anything to me. But I would hear people joke about big girls with him, and I just thought they were jokes. But no, he has a thing for big women, and I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm getting like less attractive to him. Like that's so weird. But you never know what people like. So again, this girl is wild, and be very careful, because people have been destroying the family unit and marriage and all that stuff on the left, and she says she's on the right, but she's the things that she's kind of advocating for and promoting achieve the same goal. So and I think, and it's because she doesn't understand. She should understand. Maybe she does understand, and it's just for grifting and it's for clicks. People get paid for engagement on Twitter, so she could just be talking honestly, and saying stuff for people to like and comment, etc. Because she's getting paid for it. She's getting paid for it on Twitter. She get paid for it on YouTube. Um, but I'll say this, and then I'll close. But I don't trust male feminists, because they tell. I don't trust people who tell people what they want to hear, and too many times I feel that's the case for like male feminists. And then like there'll be like some high profile like male feminists on different platforms who are really just dogs, like Modern Warrior, for example. If you're familiar with him on Twitter. I'm sorry, not Twitter, but TikTok. Um but I people like Pearl, I think, is the same thing. Like she's telling a lot of young men, and she has a following, and what they want to hear, and is engaging a lot in victim culture for them. And it's mostly always the woman's fault. And you gotta blame the woman for this and the woman for that. And yeah, women will initiate a lot of divorces, and you could ask why. Just because a woman might do it may not mean that she was the problem. But again, I don't know how you can be upset about that when you think that getting fat is a failed marriage, I guess. So, um, and just to get you know, address the elephant in the room, I'm very well that I am a big girl, but I'm not offended by that aspect of it. I just think it's just it, regardless of my size, and isn't it so obviously stupid? Isn't it so obviously stupid? Especially because people get fat together. People will do that. Or people might not care about their partner who they love throughout the years putting on, especially after they have all these kids or whatnot. So, you know, it's such a silly thing to me. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. Um, if you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at the website. It costs to stream, costs to run my website, all that stuff. So you guys can support in that way. I very much do appreciate it. You guys can check out different merchandise that we have on blacktnews.com, like the pro-choice men are sus. There was a segment on Fox News where they were talking about words that people didn't understand, like parents didn't understand, and sus was one of the phrases. And I know some people don't understand sus or have asked what suspect means, but sus stands for suspect. So like it's suspicious or something. So um I'll go into like I've explained what the shirt means before, but I just thought about that segment. I did post something about it on my YouTube. Got the black tea mug and other stuff, and also check out my different books that I have available, like Super Kid. Um, it's funny. My sister was telling me some stuff about my nephew going on in school. I'm just like, should have read Super Kid. Felix dealt with this. Felix dealt with that. Felix. So go ahead and um pick up Super Kid for your kids or your grandkids or whatever. You guys can go to Amazon. Just search my name, Christina L. Barr, and it's Christina with a CH and Barr with 2 R's. But Super Kid, that's a middle grade like chapter book. Usually like 8 to 10-year-olds will read it, but kids who are a bit older have read it. And actually I've had 6-year-olds who are very good at reading pick it up and read it like in a day, which is very flattering. But that's available. I also have like books for like young adult, new adult and stuff. Got my Dark Mermaid book right here. And of course, I have my book, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion, that you guys can get as well. Hope you guys check it out. If you like it, please make sure that you leave a review wherever you may review, but on Amazon and other such places. Again, thank you guys so much for being with me today, and I will see you all tomorrow. I hope you guys had a great weekend again, and hopefully, there's some things that I want to talk about as far as some more comments that Trump made, doubling down on the abortion topic, but we'll have to tackle that another day. And I wish he'd stop, but it is what it is. God bless.